Welcome back to another episode of Alex's Sports Talk Show. Just a little recap of the past couple days. Yesterday, Sunday, Game 7. We had two Game 7s in the NBA. One, Portland versus the Nuggets. Trailblazers won that one by 4. And then later in the day on Sunday, we had the Raptors versus the Sixers, and Kawhi got the shooter's bounce on the fadeaway 3 to send the Raptors into the Eastern Conference Finals to play the Bucks. So we have our conference finals set for the NBA. We have in the West, we have the Golden State Warriors versus the Portland Trailblazers, and then in the East, we have the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Toronto Raptors. Gonna be some great games. These games are gonna be on Tuesday and Wednesday for Game 1. Starting in the West, starting in Golden State, they played 4 times in the regular season, and that series is tied 2-2. The last time these two teams played was before the All-Star break, so both these teams' dynamic have totally changed up. Portland no longer has Nurkic due to his broken leg a few weeks before the playoffs occurred, so Kanter will be starting, and then no Kevin Durant the first 2 games of this series due to his right calf strain in Game 5 of the semifinals versus the Rockets. Golden State not going to have one of their best players in Kevin Durant, and then now Nurkic will not be playing for the Blazers. He was averaging 20 points. Huge loss. Hopefully Kanter will fill those shoes. I know that if Portland wants to win this series, they need great production from CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. They needed Damian Lillard in the first round of the playoffs against when he was going against OKC, and then they need Game 7 CJ McCollum. He scored 37 points. It is the second highest scoring total for a road team in a Game 7 NBA playoff game. So pretty crazy about that. They need to be on their A game, and then their role players really need to play well if they want to win these. For Golden State, Steph Curry's got to be hitting. Klay Thompson's going to be hitting. They're going to be taking more shots because they do not have Kevin Durant. So look for those two to really kind of be shooting a lot. Look for Draymond Green to be taking a couple more shots too, and then their role player Sean Livingston just pull up middies, and then Iguodala can just kind of shoot from anywhere, so watch for him to be taking more shots as well. Some key matchups for this game. The first key matchup of this game is Klay Thompson versus CJ McCollum. They both had a huge role in their series clinching games. Klay Thompson was 5-9 in the first half before Steph Curry went off for 33 points in the second half, and then CJ McCollum had 37 points at the end of their Game 7 series to win. Hit a huge clutch shot midi against Torrey Craig for the game winner. So this is going to be interesting to look at because defensively Klay is probably going to be on CJ McCollum, so that's going to kind of disrupt CJ, so look for more screens and more pick and rolls and a lot more ball movement to get these guys open, especially CJ. Another key matchup to look for in this game is offensively Steph Curry versus Damian Lillard. We all know what Steph Curry can do. We all know his range. We know what Damian Lillard can do, and he has the same type of range. So look for these guys to have a couple 3-point battles during this series. Definitely going to be a little chip on Dame's shoulder for this series because they've got knocked out by Golden State in the past, and this year I really think that has ignited a fire under Damian Lillard because they've been knocked out the past couple years. He said it when they won in OKC, like, it's their time, essentially. It's their time to win. Obviously without Nurkic, it's going to be a little bit difficult, but, on the flip side of that, Kevin Durant's going to be out the first 2 games. If Portland can steal 2 games, they're going to be in great shape. If they can steal 1 game, that would be ideal too, but in this series, especially with no KD in the first 2 games, they have to steal a road game if they want to win this series. Here's my prediction for the Western Conference Finals. If Portland can take the first 2 games of this series, Portland in 6. Simple as that. Damian Lillard's too hot right now. CJ McCollum has really started to get heated up. These last couple games against Denver really kind of showing the adversity, kind of been through the adversity of these 2 guys for these superstars. Really got to show out for the team. On the other side of that, so if Portland can take the first 2 games in Oakland, Portland in 6, if they can't take a road game, Warriors in 5. Warriors are just too good, especially with what they're going through this season in the playoffs. No DeMarcus Cousins, torn quadricep, now one of the best players on the team. KD, right calf strains, missed 3 games now with the first 2 of these series. So, yeah, going to be interesting. But like I said, I'm rooting for Portland. I want Portland to win. They've really done a lot this year to show how much they've grown, especially in Dame and CJ. But it's going to be a good series. It's going to be tough. Going to be evenly matched in the backcourt for these 2 teams. Okay, let's go to the East now for the Eastern Conference Finals. Number 1 seeded Milwaukee versus the number 2 seeded Toronto. A little recap for both of these teams. It's been a really easy road for Milwaukee. For these playoffs, they've lost 1 game this whole series, and that was game 1 of the
Boston.
They lost the first game of that, but then they won 4 in a row, knocked Boston right out. A lot of people had Boston winning the Eastern Conference, but Kyrie was not his usual self, so that's kind of why, one of the reasons why they lost. But it's been really easy for Milwaukee. On to the other side of this matchup, going to Toronto. Toronto lost game 1 against Orlando in the first opening series of these playoffs, and then went on to win the last 4. And then in the semifinals, they just had to play Philadelphia, and they won game 7 due to Kawhi's 3-point shooter's bounce buzzer beater. Congrats to him. With Toronto as well, their starting backcourt in Kyle Lowry and Danny Green have not produced a whole lot, especially last series, but they did a little bit in the first series of these playoffs against Orlando Magic. But Milwaukee is not Orlando. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. They've got the number 1 defense in the NBA. So these starting guards for Toronto have to produce something if Toronto wants to even stand a chance in this series. So just mentioned, Toronto just won Game 7 against Philadelphia. That series was very physical and very tiring on the team. Kawhi put up the most shots he's ever put in a game. I want to say field goal attempts were around 43 field goal attempts. He ended up with 41 points in the game winner. Kawhi has been carrying this team to the playoffs, and it just goes to show how much of a superstar he is. He already has at least 1 finals under his championship, and he also has a finals MVP. So look for that to kind of help him along this way to get to the finals. However, Milwaukee is pretty inexperienced when it comes to these playoffs so far, but that doesn't seem to have phased him, especially Antetokounmpo. This is the furthest he's ever made it into the playoffs, and this dude is averaging at least 27 points per game, and he is putting on a show for these Milwaukee Bucks. Some of the key matchups to look for in this game: the Giannis versus the Kawhi matchup. Both of them play the 3, the small forward. Don't really look for that defensive matchup against each other to be happening all the time, because they have to produce a lot of offense for their team. So look for Kawhi to be going against Chris Middleton a lot, but Giannis will be covering Kawhi sometimes. On the flip side of that, Giannis will be having the ball a lot, so look for Pascal to Siakam to be on him. A little bit of Kawhi Leonard, and then also Serge Ibaka might try and put defensively on him just because he's an elite paint protector. To the coaches, yes, the coaches of these teams, Mike Budenholzer of the Bucks and Nick Nurse of the Raptors. This is their first year coaching these teams, and sure, the talent was already there, but they've implemented the plan and the system for this team, and they're doing really well. It's kind of surprising that both first-year coaches are in the Eastern Conference Finals and that one of these guys could be into the finals. So it's going to be interesting to how these guys approach the game. So look for that key matchup and kind of what their lineups will be looking like in the game. The last matchup we're going to be looking for of this Eastern Conference Finals is the Milwaukee's backcourt of Drew Bledsoe and Chris Middleton against Kyle Lowry and Danny Green. For Milwaukee, these 2 guys have been putting up really good numbers. Chris Middleton just earned his first All-Star nod this year, so he's been playing really well, so watch out for him to be putting up lots of shots. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kyle Lowry and Danny Green have not really been producing for the Raptors. It's been more of run the pick and roll and then dish it to Kawhi, and then Kawhi go make something happen because you're the leader and the superstar of this team. So go ahead and do what you will. That cannot be the mindset of these two guys. These two guys have to be aggressive with their touches and, look for people to make the plays. Obviously you have Kawhi, and Kawhi's number one option, but maybe don't go to him so he can save some of his energy for the series and the game, because he looked very tired in Game 7, played a lot of minutes, put up a lot of shots. I don't think he was comfortable putting up those amount of shots. So hopefully Nick Nurse will dial those back, but at the same time, you got to win somehow. So those are going to be kind of the key matchups to look for. Before we go into the prediction of this conference finals, I want to give you a little fun stat about Kyle Lowry. In the series between these two teams in the regular season, he shot from 3-point 1 of 20. Yes, 1 of 20. If Toronto wants to win this and go to the finals, that number is not acceptable for him and should be erased from memory, because 1 of 20 is awful. Kyle Lowry, man, you got to show up, bro. Like, I don't know what's going on through your mind right now, or if you're having the yips or whatever, but you got to ignore everything and you got to go ball out, bro. Like, this is the time. Like, there's no LeBronto. Like, LeBron is out of the East, so now is your time to take over and be the champs of the East. So got to make something happen. Okay, prediction. I am going to be choosing the Bucks in 6 games. The Bucks are well rested, while, sure, Toronto may have come off a huge emotional Game 7 win. They're tired, and they're going to be a little exhausted from that. So I think the Bucks are going to kind of take that to an advantage, but at the same time, being well rested doesn't mean that you're conditioned as well as these guys who played, 4 or 5 more games extra than you guys during these playoffs, just because their series went a little longer. So if the Raptors backcourt shows up, we'll have to see after Game 1 how they do. But if the backcourt for the Raptors show up, I'm taking the Raptors in 7, but I do not think they will show up. They haven't showed up this far, so why would they show up now? That's just kind of my reasoning. Sure, that thing can flip on a dime, but I'm not seeing it against the number 1 defense in the league right now. And Giannis, MVP of the year? Nah. Bucks in 6. Clock it! Thank you for tuning in again, guys. Please comment, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Always going to be giving you more info about the NBA playoffs and NFL and MLB and NHL and tennis and volleyball and anything sports related. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Alex Thompson.